Hey everybody, welcome to Burnie's Applebox and something special today. This show is being brought to you by Cinemaker, and we're going to show you a lot more about that system. We're ambassadors for it and we love it. And that's what we're doing. And we're at Hybrid Studios, where the home of Applebox is, but we're in their beautiful white cyc stage. Double white cyc is just gorgeous. So invite anybody ever at any time, come down to Hybrid Studios and take a visit. We'd love to see you. Very special today. I've got a guest I've been trying to get for a long time. Awesome guy, awesome DP, Austin Sabado.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for making it. And I barely got you. You're leaving here and running out to a shoot after this.
Yeah.
So that is awesome, dude. I tell you, I have been so impressed with you and the job you're doing and the way you present yourself on social media and what you're doing there. I mean, mind-blowing. And of course, you and William Helmuth, who we've had on the show several times, are like, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, I guess. I don't know who's Butch Cassidy and who's Sundance, but you guys are hanging together and you do a great job, and I know I've worked with both of you, and it's just a lot of fun. So once again, thank you again, buddy. Thank you.
Pleasure to be here.
So Austin, it seems like you came into my field of view just on fire. I mean, all of a sudden when I saw you or I became friends with you, it was just that steady stream of Facebook stuff, your projects you're doing, lots of pictures, lots of explanations. Something I love is telling how you did it, because I think that's so important in our industry. It gives you, number one, huge credibility, but number two, it helps everybody up and down the line, myself included. I love seeing the way things are done. Sometimes I'll look at it and go, oh, well, I wouldn't have done it that way. Others are like, I'm doing that next time, So really awesome job. Tell me, first of all, where did you start? Did you go to college? Did you go to film school?
Yeah, so I have a very interesting story. Actually, growing up, I wanted to be a choreographer. During high school, dance was kind of my life. That's what I did. Just practicing dance and living dance, pretty much. Right
there, you've blown my mind already. So I had no idea about that choreography. Go ahead.
So after high school, I was pursuing dance, and I was trying to balance that with a 9-to-5 corporate job. And as you know, with that full-time, and then dance also is kind of a full-time job, I unfortunately had to drop that.
Yeah.
So I was pursuing the 9-to-5 corporate job, and was taking some trips with my family.
9-to-5 corporate job. Where'd you work at?
I worked at a company called Amtech Computer Services. I was a purchasing agent and a dispatcher. So cubicle on the emailing, and I learned a lot from there. I learned a lot of business skills.
Yes.
And communication skills.
Yes.
So definitely
very important. Very important.
Very important. Yeah. So I was able to take that and eventually, doing what I do now. But
now, how old were you when you were in that field before you got into media?
I was around 18.
Oh, 18, so real young.
Age,
you were real, to me that's real young.
Yeah,
it is. I think to a lot of people it's real young. I mean, probably if you're 17 it's not so young, but that's very interesting. So you were a pretty sharp guy. I mean, you're doing the purchasing agency, you're 18 years old and working for them, and you're learning business skills too. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
So go from there then. How did that lead you into film and video?
So 9-to-5 job, and I was able to take some trips when we had vacation with my family. And I remember at 18 years of age, I had my very first iPhone. And with the iPhone, their camera was like the best camera for phones, and so I was taking a lot of photos.
What year is this?
I think it was the iPhone 5 or 4. I can't remember which one I remember.
That's what year it is now. It's the iPhone 5 or it's the 10.
Depends on the model.
I was born in the iPhone 10 generation. So anyway, so you're there and you're just got a consumer camera and you're taking pictures and video,
posting them online, and it was interesting because businesses were reaching out to me saying, "Hey, we saw your photo and we'd like to put on our website." And so they'd buy the photo for X amount, and that's how I was introduced to the world of stock photography.
Awesome.
So I did a little bit of that and thought to myself, what could I do with a real camera? So I bought a DSLR, saved up and bought a DSLR, and was shooting a bunch of pictures with that and just loved that. During that time when I had the DSLR, I actually moved down to Costa Rica because I had some friends down there.
Okay.
They're like, you got to come check it out. fell in love with the country. I ended up living there for 3 years.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Wow.
So being able to experience a new culture, a new landscape, a new atmosphere, and people, I just learned a lot down there. And again, taking photos down there was just awesome. So I was doing real estate, portraits, surf, just kind of whatever I can get my hands on.
Yeah.
From there, gonna do some name dropping here. My good buddy Cody Coker. I'm sure you're going to be watching this.
Cody, how you doing, buddy? I know Cody.
Yeah, he got me into video editing.
Okay. Now, how did he get you into that?
He was rooming with me at that time.
Okay.
So we were both living together down in Costa Rica. We were Jungle Boys.
Okay, so he was in Costa Rica too. I didn't realize that. Okay.
We were down there, and he got me into video editing. Well, just film in general, because we were trying to make a living down there, and so we were freelancing online. We were trying to figure out what can we do? How do
we get some money to stay here longer?
Yeah, how can we eat? Basically.
Always the best motivator. Food is a huge motivator.
So we got into video editing, and he had some background in video production and weddings. So we did that video editing, and I remember he showed me a film. And that's kind of what opened my eyes to filmmaking, and that was Prisoners. And it just opened my eyes, like, wow, like this is incredible. Good story, good cinematography, good performance. And from there, I always remember that moment, because I just remembered that picture.
That was like the starting point for you.
That was the starting point. Along with everything else, the video editing, video production.
Along with everything that had come up to that point, that was sort of when they ignited the rocket, right? Yeah, okay, gotcha.
So from there, we'd come back to California to just visit friends and family, and then with that, we would just kind of land a job, whether it be a video interview, a wedding to shoot, and so we would do that, take that money, and then go back down there and surf.
Oh, that's so awesome.
And so
living the dream.
Living the dream, yeah. So I decided, I wanted to pursue this. So I ended up moving from Costa Rica back to California. And then I started a video production and did weddings and corporate videos. And then I remember we did an OC meetup for all the filmmakers in the area. And I remember seeing this one guy. He had like this black leather jacket, sipping his beer in the corner, and looked pretty badass. I'm like, who's this guy? This guy looks interesting. And William Helmuth, great guy, good friend, and I remember meeting him, and he told me he's a DP, and I had no idea what that was.
Really?
I had no idea what is a DP, and he said, well, I pretty much direct the camera and lighting department. And I was like, wait, so you're telling me you specifically focus on the visual aspects of the film and video? And he said, yes. And so from me coming from video production, which is negotiating with the client, pitching the idea, going to the shoot, setting up the lights, the cameras, and then doing the audio, and then taking it home.
Yeah, you thought everybody was just a one-man band.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, you got to be kidding me. You just focus on, and then I learned about camera operators, ACs, gaffers. William, he brought me on. He brought me in, took me under his wing. And
now, how long ago was this? What year was this?
This was, let's see, we are at 2018, so it was 2017 around April, May, I remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so not that long ago, really.
Not that long ago,
just a little over a year.
Just a little over a year.
Wow, that's mind-blowing.
Yeah, very, very, very,
very
different.
That's pretty fast.
So, again, it's surrounding yourself with good people, good mentors, good teachers, and then just be willing to learn and work hard.
Yeah.
Definitely working hard.
Yeah.
So from there, I learned from William. I learned from you as well. Learned from just the people that I was surrounded by, and that's pretty much it. So now I'm here.
That's amazing. And you made it all the way to Burnie's Applebox. That's huge. Your career is peaking before our eyes. That's really good. And you know what? I think what that story sort of brings to me too is first, anybody who's going to do well in our industry is going to know how to grasp opportunity when that's here. 2 examples. You went down to Costa Rica and you figured out how to make an opportunity out of that and be able to live down there.
Yeah.
And then when you came back up here, you expanded your horizons when you were into video productions, and once you learned something and learned that way, and that sort of ignited you into that field, you went all the way and went very quickly. I must have intersected you closely around the time that you started becoming a DP and working, because I remember you and William, you know what I mean, were almost inseparable on shoots. I'd always see you there, you know.
Right.
That is very, very cool. So since then, now you've gone out, and I'd say in the last 6 months, I've noticed you've established yourself fairly well as a DP. Tell me about, and because I think, including myself, a lot of people miss this and don't get it. And maybe in my case, I never quite get it right. I do a pretty good job, but I never feel like I am any sort of master of it. How do you intersect and talk and meet clients?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. That's a very, very good question.
Well, just tell me your experiences so far, how you've gotten some of your jobs and how that interaction has been.
That's a question I've asked myself too.
Everyone does.
Even till this day, it's like, how did I land this job? And you know what it is? This business, obviously everyone knows, it's a people person.
It is a networking business.
It's a networking business. Yeah. And you always got to be on your A game in the sense of just smiling and being friendly,
positive,
and being nice,
being positive.
And you know, everyone's going to have their down days.
Yeah.
You know, but at the end of the day, when you meet a client or a potential client and you're there to help, I think that's the main thing. You're just there to help. You're not there to make money. You're not there to, oh, I just want to do this because this is going to look good.
Yeah.
You're there to help. And if they see that, I think that's what's going to be a key thing.
You're there to facilitate their vision they are trying to produce. That's how I look at it. You know, and part of that requires you to do some embracing, and another part of it requires you to let go a little bit too.
Right.
Because letting go, you want them to have the best product, but you have to remember, in the end, it is theirs to deal with and theirs to take forth as they see fit.
Right.
You know,
right.
And sometimes that can be in conflict with your professional knowledge, right? Now, for me, I usually go up and will tell somebody what I think the options are or why I think it's a bad idea. How do you transverse that that cycle or that intersection, which there always is? You know what I mean? Tell me a little bit about that. Do you how do you approach a client, say, if you don't think something is the right thing?
Okay.
How is that?
Yeah, no, I feel like filmmaking is a collaborative team effort. So when a client tells me, we want to do this scene or this type of interview, this is the story or this is the script, and they say, we want to make it look like this.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, okay, that's great. And if I see something that may not connect well, I'll just say, can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
Out of my experience or from what I've learned, this is my suggestion. What do you think?
Right.
And let them sit on that. And if they're, strongly, it's all, at the end of the day, it's what they want.
Right.
We're there to serve that.
And it sounds to me like you said, you put that, you give your suggestion, and then you obviously hand that back, put it in their lap. It's their decision.
It's their decision, yes.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much the approach that I take too, and also I think you sort of have to gauge a little bit, like, is this one worth taking into the head office? You know what I mean? Some decisions, well, it's not what I would do, but, somebody else may do it that way. You know what I mean? So something like that I probably wouldn't, you know what I mean, make an issue of. If I think it's a mistake for the project, that's when I hit it. Yeah. But that's a very good technique. Tell me about that process, and because here's what it is. It's a rub. My thing is I think people really in our industry horribly undercharge for what they're bringing to the table. One is, I look at this as just something else. You've been the equivalent in college for 4 years because you've been in the industry that long and you've progressively learned more and more and more. Well, 5 years you'll have a master's. 8 years you'll have so much experience. It's like having almost a doctorate in it. Where you have focused on production. And while I know it's a marketplace and we're freelancers and we have to adjust, really my thing is you have to charge for that. And it's not just charging for now and what your needs are now. You should be charging to be able to make a living in the future and buy a house, get a couple cars, maybe get married, maybe have some kids, maybe not, whatever. But you should have as much money as any other person who's a professional, you know. So I think people undercharge a lot. Tell me, how do you approach a client when you're talking about your money, about your rate, or what you're going to charge for gear? And tell me about the compromises that you make, because I know you have to make them being new.
Right.
You know. Right. So give me a feel on that.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, if you asked me this question probably 2 years ago, I would have a completely different answer. And it all comes down to, what is your worth? Because 2 years ago, I was just starting out. I didn't know anything, and I didn't feel comfortable charging somebody $3,000. I just, I'm taking your money, but I'm not being able to.
But you know that you're not carrying that weight yet. In other words, you can't bring that to the table.
Right. And you know, it all comes because, you know, when I was starting out, I was like, I want to be able to do those kind of jobs. I want to be able to make that kind of money. But it all comes down with time and experience.
Yeah.
So now, for example, we just had this job this past week, just an interview, and you know, it came down to, okay, you guys need this, this, and that. Okay, what is your budget? That's the first thing you want to ask. Just, what is your budget?
What is your budget? So you start right there, which I think is very wise, because that's sort of, no matter what they're saying or talking about, the bones have been thrown. Right? You know what you're really dealing with.
Right. What is your budget? Then you can determine, okay, is this worth my time, my crew, as well as the gear that they're going to be wanting and needing.
Right.
So you just kind of break that down. But it all comes down to, is it worth your time? Because time is
everything.
Everything. Time is, my mom always tells me, time is unforgiving. You can't get it back.
No.
Money, it go up and down. You can get it back.
There's some more coming in. There's some more coming in.
Time, so that's where it's kind of like, is it worth my time?
Yeah. And you just mentioned that you took this job in San Francisco. It wasn't a money thing. It was to establish yourself with a client, which is a value, right? I mean, that actually has dollars attached to it, because you know you want to be and you hope to be hired more and get more jobs. So that's perfect. That's great. So when you're in that negotiation and somebody has given you the budget and stuff like that, because this happens to me all the time, you know, they tell me what they want and either give me a hard list or give me, you know, here's where we're going to be, this is what we're going to be doing, you know, sort of what do you think we need, you know. And a whole long time ago, I got rid of like, oh, maybe I can put this on, oh, maybe I mean, that is, I'm looking to take things off now, as opposed to putting them in, for a lot of reasons, you know, and they're all my own interest, you know, to do that. But how do you approach the client then? They've given the budget, let's just say that, and this budget, as we know, is going to be not enough. Right, you know, for everything. How do you approach telling them that? How do you approach that?
Well, I mean, if the budget's not going to cut from what they're needing, or wanting, you just kind of have to be upfront about it. You know, and it's hard because it's basically telling them no. And you know, in this business, we always just want to say yes, because we always want to.
We are addicted to yes.
Yes, we're addicted to yes. And so it comes down to it. If you can't negotiate anymore, it's going to come down to basically, you know, unfortunately, the budget that we are working at is not going to achieve the vision that we're looking at.
Yes. And so you leave it there with them, and it's up to them to put more money on the table. But just if it stays this way, you probably can't do it.
Or they can sometimes, instead of it being so many different types of, let's just say, days, they can maybe take down some of the days, or maybe, you know,
compact
the project or something.
It's always blowing my mind how people, and it's because they see very produced media all the time. They're seeing a very costly, highly produced media on TV, on the news even, you know, any of that stuff. And that's their only point of reference. They come back to you, I want to do it just like this, you know. I tell a story always. A guy said to me, you know, and we wanted to look, after hammering me down, right? He goes, we wanted to look like the West Wing, you know. And I said, sir, do you understand there are 20 crew members lighting that for a week before the show starts to look like the West Wing?
Exactly.
You know, so people's points of references are at this very high scale. Their budgets don't match what that really is. And getting that you know, experienced people, guys that have been producers 20 years, no, they know exactly where they're at and what they're going to get.
And it's because they understand the process. So that's from my experience. I've had a client where they said, we want a, you know, high budget commercial that looks like Apple. And they had like a very tiny budget. And I said, okay, well, you know that with that they needed this. It's helping the client understand what it takes to be at that level.
Yes.
And then they can negotiate and stuff like that. But if you just don't explain it to them, if you don't take their hand and show them the process, they're never going to understand.
Right, right. And you know, you're absolutely right about that, and that's the education of the client, right? Another thing is a production person, and certainly then you're very heavily involved in sales, because you're not going to do any productions unless you're out selling somebody on the idea. I think a lot of times they get in over their head, especially if they're newer or whatever, and the client's probably smart and they're looking at it and thinking, well, I want this, this, and this. I know we're not going to have the budget for it, but this is, I'm going to tell them what we want. And they don't have the knowledge base to fight back or make that other suggestion or do whatever. Then they come to you, and it's almost like I feel sometimes they're expecting me to fix everything that they did wrong in the sales part or the negotiations and the budgeting. And, you know, I used to really feel like when I was newer and even had been in the business, like I wanted to help them. I wanted to fix things for them. And I think that is a good motivator and a good motivation. However, you can't fix everybody's mistakes for them. And you learn, I think, I did, I can't fix hardly any of them, you know, and I had to come back to my own business and say, what do I need? And what's realistic for me? And, you know, you've got to say no. You've got to say no. And the one thing I found out, Austin, was this in that course of learning that in my own business. The people who don't have a budget to begin with usually never have a budget. And if they do have a budget and they've hired you on the lower budget, when they have a big budget, they want to see a different face there. They want to feel like they've got the thing. So you take those low jobs, you could very easily be stuck at those low jobs, you know. And I've seen it, same thing in my business. Now, tell me about subject matter. Is there any theme and subject matter of the types of videos you do? I know a lot of guys in my industry, you know, they're car experts, or guys are food shooters, or anything like that. Have you seen anything in your career that is sort of leading you in a way?
Yeah, that's a good question. Right now, you know, since I'm still fairly new, just kind of getting whatever I can get my hands on.
Yeah, sure.
But I do enjoy lighting portraits and faces. So I am kind of stepping into the more narrative type work, but I always will do commercial type stuff that just involves people. I agree too. Lighting a good interview is something I really enjoy, you know, because every face is different, you know. Every face is different. You can't apply the same things to everybody's face. And it's subjective, you know, and I think you get, well, I know, you do get better with time. You know, you can get it right the first time. And also, this is another thing, I'm sure you've experienced this being in what you've done so far, there is never any time on set. You're 2 shots behind almost from before you got there. You know, so tell me how you do that in the time crunch. How do you keep everything going with the lighting and your AC and conversation with the director and all that? What happens when you have to turn up the juice? When you got to turn up the juice on set, basically. Okay. Wow. So when you're on set and you're in a time crunch, I mean, you really just gotta communicate.
Yeah.
You really gotta communicate and delegate. Delegate tasks to crew members.
Right.
So that your mind as a director, or as well as a director of photography, you can focus on, okay, these lights need to move here, the camera needs to move here. Delegate that to the crew.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Delegate
and
that
that's
to
where
the
your
crew,
your gaffer should come in right there.
Right,
He should
right.
be on that before you are
Yes.
even.
Yeah. No, and there's been times, obviously, where we're running behind, the 80s on us.
Yeah.
And, but we just got to get it done. That's
Yeah.
the thing. We can't sit there and just be like, well, we just got to get it done.
Yeah.
We just got to get it done.
Yeah. That's interesting too. I don't know. For me, what I'm doing is when I'm on set and I'm gaffing and stuff, I'm over there at the first AD, and as soon as the director says, okay, or the DP says we're ready to roll, we're set, we're done, I am on that first AD or line producer, whoever it is, where are we next? What are we
Yes,
doing
that's
next?
good.
Because I know all my guys are done with this set. I want to get at least a good portion of them started on the next set.
Right.
Because and that should be already prepped, my lighting for that out at the truck anyway. So I want to get guys up there starting powering,
Right.
setting it up and all that stuff. So, that's the time management part of it. What you've seen, well, first of all, let me ask this question. You just learned from William Helmuth what a DP was, so maybe you didn't even have a good gauge of what to expect.
Yeah.
But how different is it than you thought it might be? In other words, you probably had a vision of what it was like to make a movie or a show or a commercial.
Oh, yeah.
How different is it than what you thought it was?
Completely different.
Completely, right?
Completely different.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that.
When I first met William and when I was first doing some small DP work, it was just, cameras, lights. But now we're working with cranes and dollies and just it's bigger.
It just expanded.
It's the same concept. It's just bigger.
Yeah.
So when you factor in all those things you need to execute with all the different tools and equipments and crew members, you got to factor in that time.
Yes.
And that's why when you get on set, starting out as a PA, AC cam op, or whatever in general, you want to observe and suck in the information. How long does it take to set up a 12 by 12? How long does it take to set up a dolly?
Right.
Because then, as you progress, you can take that into account when you DP, and the 80's like, how long is it going to take?
Yep. Yep.
And
you add your time, right?
You always buffer yourself.
You buffer.
Always you buffer
Absolutely.
yourself.
Absolutely.
There were times where my AD would be like, how long is it going to take you?
Yeah.
I said, how much time do I have?
Yeah.
And he'd give me a time, and I said, okay, can we work at this time? And he said, yes, because I knew I needed to buffer myself.
Yeah. Yep. And that's so smart. That's so smart. You've got to do it. That is really something in looking at those groups and that time management. It's funny the industry I worked in before I got in this one was automobile imports. We had like 10,000 cars on the lot. So I had to figure out how long it took a person to drive this car from one side of the lot to the other side of the lot, because I had to move 500 cars that day.
Yeah.
I needed to know how many people to hire, right? And so very simple. We would do time studies out the yin-yang. I swear, it was just like, how long does it take to put AC in? How long does it take to get the parts for the AC to the AC department? We knew all that stuff. I came into this industry and, I first got picked up by the lighting, and I always heard that. How long is it going to take to get, how long is it going to, and so I suggested doing a series of time studies on going into set and say, what's the average? You know what I mean? Because it's not. I was slapped down on that one. I was just, we don't do time. How do we know what it's going to take? It's from one place to another. I mean, they did not get the concept of time study down. You know what I mean? But that is so important to know the flow of a set. I use that all the time when I go out. I know that there's going to be things that I know my start is going to be slower than my finish on that first initial set, because the start is actually getting it into the house, getting what you need, getting the right people in there to set it correctly, while you're out looking and talking to the DP and
Right.
and figuring out the rest of the day too. So all of that stuff and that time study and those skills are so important. I know you have a guy who gaffs for you. What's it, Mark?
Mark Lopez.
Mark Lopez,
Mark
great
Lopez.
guy,
Great
guy,
gaffer.
great gaffer, great gaffer. Mark is a great guy. He started out with you, right? You guys
Yeah.
kind of started
Yeah.
together doing this.
We did a commercial down in San Diego together, and we just hit it off. And that's the thing. It's like working with people that you connect with.
Boy, couldn't. I wasn't going to go there, but you're absolutely right. That's probably one of the biggest things is, this business is part personal and part business.
Yeah.
Because you have to be in the trenches with somebody.
Yeah.
You can't have somebody who is, everybody has a bad time, day, whatever, you know what I mean? We all get that, but you can't have somebody who's going to be negative or down. You have to have that person who's been there at 14 hours, knowing you're going 16 hours and battling through it with you, and they're not going to leave. And at the end of the shoot, they're going to load the truck.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're not
Right.
going to get in their car and go home.
Right.
That is really important. You and Mark found that. That's pretty lucky. A lot of
Yeah.
people don't get sort of the good DP gaffer relationship,
Right.
down first. How about audio? Is there anybody? Are you building a team?
I'm trying to build a team.
Yeah,
Trying to build
yeah.
your go-to key list of people because, you take it for example. If you look at major feature films, the cast and crew is almost the same every time. It's because they had that chemistry, that director to talent or director to actor chemistry is there, and it just works every single time. So when you have a key crew, you can just communicate well and just execute well.
Woody Allen, somebody who hires the same people over and over. Clint Eastwood, certainly. I think probably, I'm sure Spielberg. Well, I know he does. They don't experiment with crew when they're going in. If they've got the pros that are out there and they want it, they do it. And I think that's really an important thing. Also, to be open to new talent too, because I know when I started in the business a little bit, I did the same thing as a gaffer. I'm picking up a number two. I was driving around in my van doing it with everything I own, but I realized it became too much work for one person.
Exactly.
I had to pick up a number two. That worked for a while, then it didn't. You know what I mean? And all kinds of influences influence that. Maybe the guy you like has been in the business 2 or 3 years longer than you, and he's got better opportunities than you. That could be a reason why you don't hit it up. But all of those things are so important. So I think that's important. You and Mark hit that off just like that. Now tell me about working with other DPs as well, because there is something I know. DPs are some of the greatest people that I know. Seriously, I mean they're smart. They're having fun doing what they do, and so many of them. And this was such a great asset for me coming in at 40. That's when I came into to the business. That so many of them were open with what they're doing, what they're talking about. Tell me about that. Your peer group. How often do you call on another DP? Now I know William and you talk all the time.
But no, I mean we got a group of like a DP pool basically that we all just kind of throw ideas at and talk about projects and stuff. And it's good because you're able to bounce ideas and just get better and improve. Yeah. It's not a competition.
Yeah.
I know the market's competitive, but it's just all about helping each other out.
I think you're really hitting something now. It's the tendency is to look at it, and I think people with new eyes too, like, well, if he got that job, I could have had that job, but he got it. So I got to be better than him to get that job next time. And it's not like that.
It's not like that, but the mentality can be there.
The mentality can be there amongst other people. But you know what? In my mind, and this comes with some 20 years of being in the business, I've seen those people fail over and over. I see the people who want to gather, you know what I mean, want to exchange ideas. Those people succeed over and over and over again. You know, they're saying that nice guys finish last is not true in this business. You know, nice people finish first a lot. You know, Joe Pitka, was a huge DP when I hear, with one of the worst reputations in the world. I mean, not even close. You know what I mean? I don't see him doing too much anymore. You know what I mean? I don't see him doing any big pictures, big campaigns. I'm sure he's working.
Right.
But, you know, DPs are generally a very, they're people that are pretty, I don't know if you would say calm. I don't know if that would be, but they're sure of their stuff. They know how to run the ship.
Right.
You know what I mean? Some are probably better captains than others, but
that's a good way to
they
put
do
it.
that.
Yeah.
Who are your favorite DPs?
Oh boy, Willian Helmuth.
Well, nice, good one, Austin.
Those that are working more on obviously major films. Right now, I'm definitely keeping an eye on Bradford Young. The reason why Bradford is because he's offering something new to the table. He definitely shoots a little more underexposed, and I like the way he moves the camera and how he executes the story. He's definitely a DP that I'm kind of
looking at. And what pictures has he done?
Arrival. A recent one is Solo, but I know for sure Arrival is the one that
Arrival I love.
Who's this guy?
I love that. Yeah, that was really well done, I thought.
Very different,
yeah. Who else?
Who else? I'm sure everyone knows Deakins. Deakins is
Roger Deakins.
right there.
That's who I was thinking of when I say, you know, the nice guys finish first in our industry. You know, because that guy, he'll get on social media with anybody that just asks him questions. He answers everybody's questions. He's very supportive of the whole industry.
And he's humble. I really admire that, is that he's just a guy that you can talk to, and he just enjoys what he does, and he's simple. And it's just, I love it. I love it.
No, he's really, and he's so well loved in this industry too. That's another thing that's really gratifying to see, is almost everybody comes around and goes, hey, Roger Deakins is the guy. You know. Anybody else that
Those
comes
are
to mind?
my
The two tops. That's great. What movies did you like this year?
Ooh, man.
And you can go back a whole year or 2 years if you want.
This year, because I've been watching a lot of old films recently.
You have that. Well, let's go into that for a little bit, because that interests me. You know, I asked an actor, believe it or not, guy about 30. You know, and he reminded me of Spencer Tracy.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I go, you know who Spencer Tracy is? And he goes, I go, are you kidding me? You don't even know who Spencer Tracy is? But you know what? A lot of people don't intersect those old movies anymore at all. You know, we grew up on them when there was 3 channels on TV. You know, you saw all those movies. Tell me the old ones you've been looking at.
Okay, so one.
And please don't say anything that, you know, is the year I graduated.
Man, okay, so a recent one that we just watched. I unfortunately have never seen it. So I just watched it. No Country for Old Men. So.
Never seen that one.
Oh, never seen it? Okay. All right.
Is that an old movie?
I don't know. Maybe it's not that old.
Don't tell me it's an old movie.
It's probably not that old, but.
No, it's old. It's old.
Oh, okay.
It's an old movie. Don't worry. Don't worry. I won't hold you to my standard. That's too much. So that one, you like that? Give me a couple more.
It's during the time of, I think, the 90s and then early 2000s, because that was like the age of still film, and then like digital was kind of being introduced, but everyone was still doing
it. Hadn't gone digital. It kept on film through the 90s, I think, pretty strongly.
I think it was just because of that, you know, from the 90s to 2000, technology in general, not just digital, but just like everything else. And you know, obviously all the talents we see today on the big screen, that was like their prime.
That was, they were coming up.
They were coming up. Something not too old. Shutter Island.
Shutter Island, didn't see that.
Didn't see that?
No, what was that about?
Leonardo DiCaprio going into an island. I don't want to spoil too much, but
I
think it's definitely worth a watch.
Okay. What did you like about it the best? The acting or the
performance?
The performance.
I think the performance. That's what I'm kind of focusing on now, is how the camera captures the performance. Is it static? Is it moving? Is there dolly?
I find that to be... That actually interests me more now than the lighting. I used to take the lighting apart, but now it's like and I did with Vincent LaFerré, I did one of his things on camera movement. He did these seminars a couple of years ago. He was out here, did that, and you know, I had known some things about it, you know what I mean? But I'm worrying about lighting. I'm not worrying about which way you're dollying, you know what I mean? Unless I'm the dolly grip. But that was so interesting, the examples he showed in different things. You know, bad comes from the left, you know, good comes from the right, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. It was very impressive, very impressive.
And there's one last film. This one is older, A Few Good Men.
A Few Good Men, yeah. That is
ending,
good.
That performance is just incredible.
Yeah,
it's just
incredible. No, that was a great movie. I like that movie.
Simple camera stuff, but it's just you're so involved with it. And that's what I'm trying to really understand and learn. It's like we don't need to have crazy camera moves or crazy lighting. You know, just keep it simple. Let's tell the whatever the story is, tell it.
I could not agree more. You know what I mean? And this is from me going, old guy, like, oh no, that's not the way you used to do it, because I didn't used to do it that way. I'm still pretty new in it.
Right.
But I think it's so easy with technology, with lighting, with your ability to do everything, to start using the items of storytelling and making them the story, as opposed to just saying, what does the story actually need, you know? And camera movement is very powerful in telling a story. But you know what? So is static.
Yes.
So is static.
That is a movement.
That is, yes, yes. When people are walking in that and around that frame, that really is I think powerful. You know, that it's not used more. You know, and the other thing too that I think a lot of people don't get is, here's how I think about the lighting. The lighting, all we're doing is manipulating your emotions. That's number one. We got the actors there, the audio there, the cameras there, and that is to manipulate the audience's emotions. You want them to go in a direction. You know what I mean? And I always think about lighting in that context, is that, you know, now, a lot of a corporate interview, okay, you want it to be, you want that message, if the message is a little harder, then you're going to make it look a little harder. If it's softer, you want it to be softer. If it's acceptance, you want to give all those things that let people in an easy way. You know, so that's how I think about the lighting, but it's the same with the camera movement. I think sometimes there's too much movement. I think the speed of the moves are sometimes too fast. You know what I mean? I just think we need to step back away from our ability to do everything. Rest assured we have the ability to do it. You know what I mean? And then really take it apart in much more compartmentalized way. You know, my own thoughts on that.
No, that's good. That's good. I try to focus on 3 aspects of my cinematography, and it's something that's going to take time and experience and practice. So the 3 C's is what I call them. It's composition, so the framing, because I come from that still background, and so composition is pretty much my thing. And then color. I love color, contrast of color, make, you know, all the colors that come to life and stuff. I'm a big color guy. So no, that's fun. And then lastly is choreography. And so that kind of goes into the movement, because when you're on a set and then you have Steadicam moving here, crane moving here, and actor, it's all beats. It's choreographed. And so that's why I actually really love film, because I'm able to implement that kind of the dance,
that choreography. Yes, you're bringing that to the table. That's very interesting. You know, blocking is probably one of the things that I know the least about technique, because I'm really, yes, I occasionally light something that has been blocked, you know, but a lot of my pieces are not like that. You know what I mean? And I'm not working in entertainment or narrative or anything like that, but the blocking idea, and I've done it, bringing a person from here to there and then taking them back. It's not, I have never had an overly difficult time doing that. But it brings me back to the actors, the people who have the hardest job in Hollywood. Even though it doesn't look like it's hard, it's hard. And I tell you, they got to be on it. They got to remember so many things. not just their lines, but where's my body facing? Who am I doing?
Yeah.
What is the emotional reaction here and stuff like that? I think that the blocking is something I'd love to learn more about and how it works on camera, but I don't know if I ever will. But you mentioned the choreography. I think it's very, very important, and I think it's ignored a lot, at least in my world. You know, that move is very important.
Very important.
Because it's another camera move, right? The actor's moving. That's
exactly.
They've got to do something.
Exactly.
So far, what is the funnest shoot you've done?
Oh boy, that's a hard. Oh man, it's a really hard question. Man, I mean, pretty much all of them. All of them are always. I actually had this conversation with my good buddy Carlos Herrera, another good
Carlos,
yeah,
absolutely. Carlos is awesome.
What makes the production fun is you're working with your friends.
Yeah.
And that's something, because he's been busy, I've been busy, so we haven't been really able to collaborate recently till this past week. And we kind of miss like just being able to work on set together.
Yeah.
And I think the fun projects were the ones where I'm with my friends.
Yeah. No, that is it. That's where you're having fun, doing good stuff. And you know, having come from for me, another business, and you too, you really realize how good we've got it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you can go there and have a good time at work, even if you're working 12, 14 hours a day, that is something special. And you know what? It's like no other job where when I'm driving away, usually I feel good about what we've done. There's always mistakes or stuff you didn't do. But you always feel good. And that's something a lot of people do not get out of their livelihood. You know? So that's really good. So is there a job you hated the worst, or is there one you would never
probably
do?
Shouldn't say on
Oh, I know. Disguise it. Disguise it.
Oh man, there's been projects where there was just no communication, and I think that's the key thing. If there's no communication, I don't know what's going to happen, and you know it happens. It happens when there's no game plan, and therefore I go on set knowing very little, and therefore my crew knows very little, and then the client's on me just saying, hey, how come it's not getting done? It's like, well, we didn't have a game plan.
Yeah.
You know, and we're just kind of going with the flow. And it happens, and you just got to get it done and make it work, you know. But I try to strive to be a team player. Yeah. I know I've made my mistakes on set. I'm sure everyone has. But it's just being a team player, working hard, and just getting it done. Okay, don't complain. Don't. Oh, no. You know, just, oh, man, like, I can't believe this. It's just get it done. You're there to just get it done.
Yeah. Complaining is like slow suicide. Every time they hear it, they don't want you even more than they did the last time they heard you complain. You know? Yeah, that's terrible to have a complainer on set. You know? Yeah, we're going to get through it. You know what I mean? We're going to do this and get through it. Go home. You know? Disorganization, you know, because we, I think, in our profession have to be so organized. In other words, I know if I don't bring something to the set, no one else is going to bring that item. You know, I have to be very disciplined about what I'm bringing, what I'm bringing. You too, camera-wise, you've got to know everything you need. You got enough batteries, you got enough this, that, you know, what are the scenes going to be, you know, lots of information. And I think that's... when you see the client unorganized or feel like they haven't done their homework and even kind of comprehend the fact now you're going to have 10 people walk in this morning looking to you for direction. Did you not think about that before? You know, that is something that does get disheartening. Me, at this point in my time, if I see that and I feel like it is, I just tell my guys what to do. I tell them what I want them to do and what I think is best, and then let the client come to me and tell me if that's going to work for them or not. You know, because you need to take action fast. I found that if I didn't take action within the first hour of the shoot was gone for the next 10. You know, once I sort of established my authority there and established my expertise, then it got a lot better from everybody, you know. And a lot of times the clients too may or may not be. Here's what I like: we're on set every day. The clients may be on set 4 times a year, right? Because they've taken all their time. Their projects take a long time, and they maybe don't know you well enough to know your skill set. But if you can go out there and show them, hey, I'm managing all these people on set. You know what I mean? I am bringing us to you know, where we can, our timeline could be achieved by what we're doing here. A lot of times I've seen that, oh, that's great. It's like they didn't even consider you'd had those skills, you know, and then they hand it over to you and the shoot goes well.
Right.
Yeah. Tell me about the future. So in the future, I know right now, I'm just going to guess, you see yourself as being a DP for the rest of your life.
Correct.
Right,
Yeah.
right. But suppose Austin Sabado has done 10 years of DPing, and then he's looking at other things. He's looking at more creativity. Would you ever direct? Do you think that is something that you'd be interested in or good at?
I have a lot of respect for directors, just because there's a lot that goes along with directing. It does scare me if I were to direct a project. I think it scares me because you are the captain of the vessel.
Yes.
You're the captain of the entire ship.
You're the first mate right now, but
yeah. So it is nerve-wracking, but I am drawn to working closely with the talent and extracting that emotion, that story out of them and creating that character. So maybe down the line, who knows? There's a lot of fun stuff in film, you know. So maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Okay. And what about? I want to go into this a little bit about choreography. Would you be interested, or does, as the thought come to me, with your knowledge about choreography, doing dance? I mean, dance is sort of something that has gotten left behind in cinema. You know, just to come back to a point to make on that, is watching LA Story, you know, where they did the freeway thing with all the dancers and everything, which I thought was such a wonderful concept and great opportunity. I couldn't help but feeling like they didn't nail it. And whereas I thought, you know what, even a mediocre Indian filmmaker would have nailed that. They would have nailed that. You know what I mean? And so I think as part of what we've lost, I mean, look, Busby Berkeley, I mean, those things were, they still live today. You still live it. You know who that is, don't you?
I don't.
Busby Berkeley?
Yeah,
You know,
no, unfortunately.
have you ever seen the really symmetrical type dances where the dancers are come bring that's all Busby Berkeley stuff. He developed all that back in the 30s and stuff. But a lot of, you know, the musicals have you know, they don't even advertise it as a musical anymore. You know that because guys like me won't go see it, and that's the truth. But I think we've lost a lot of that. Any thoughts? Have you thought about that?
No, when La La Land came out, it was definitely a refresher for most people.
Yeah.
Because back in the 20s, 30s, and 40s, 50s, like that was cinema at its prime in time.
Yeah.
And people enjoy that. Good, clean content, fun for the family.
Right.
Now, am I open to choreographing dance in cinema? Probably not, because I do want to be behind the camera.
Yeah.
Or maybe directing that.
But you are a choreographer.
I was. Yeah.
Okay.
I was, yeah.
All right.
And you know, I am thinking about going back and taking classes and maybe teaching again. But again, that's just
that seems like a quite a skill to just leave behind.
It is, and it was when I had to leave it behind. It was hard.
Yeah.
It was hard.
Yeah.
Because and again, it's just all time.
Did you look like that and say, okay, now as a DP, I can have good money and make a career, but if I go choreography route, I've got years in front of me before I claw my way to that medium.
It's tough. It is tough with all the people, and then again, there's a lot of people in film, but it's just it was tough.
Yeah.
It was tough to just get food on the table.
Oh, I can imagine.
And even to this day, I talk to dancers and they're just getting by.
Oh, they always are at an audition. They're always auditioning, but rarely getting the thing. Always rejected. Always rejected.
Yeah.
I worked with Nev Campbell, you know, when an actress, and this was years ago. This is like a lot of years ago, actually. You know, easily 10, 12 years ago. And it was a press junket, obviously. And one of the reporters actually goes, "What about rejection as being an actor?" She goes, "Oh,
Yeah.
I've been a dancer. Rejection's nothing.
Yeah.
You know, because
Yeah.
it's just like all the time I go, yeah, you can be the best dancer in the world. You're not the right height. You're not
Exactly.
the hair color. You know,
Exactly.
it's all that stuff. So that's very interesting. And I have never known a choreographer before too. So that's nice to meet you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So tell us about the immediate future. What's on the books? What do you got to do?
What's on the books?
Yeah.
Okay, so Cody,
Today you're going. What are you doing today?
So today we're just doing camera prep for a Google shoot coming up next week.
Okay.
And I still need to get more of the information, but I know today we're just doing building the cameras.
You're just building
Yep.
cameras. Okay.
Just building
So you're
cameras.
going up to where Panavision, or where are you going
We
to?
will be going to CSLA.
CSLA.
It's a rental
Okay.
house up, I think, like Glendale, North
Sure.
LA area.
Yeah, that's where they all are.
That's
up
where
there.
they all are. Yeah. Yeah.
That's great. And then what's next week? What's coming up?
Next week, just it's kind of open. You know, that's the thing, is projects come in last
You never
minute.
know where they're coming.
Yeah, yeah. But we got some fun projects coming up. Cody Coker and I have been talking about getting on some passion projects, some short
Great.
films.
Great.
Same with Carlos, been writing a feature, so that's going to
Great.
be exciting.
Great.
And it's just like hanging out with my friends,
No,
pretty
hanging
much.
with your friends, making stuff. That's so
Yeah,
good. How do
yeah.
people get a hold of you?
People can get a hold of me by my Instagram handle, Austin Sabado, or at my email, austin@sabadostudio.com.
Yeah, spell your last name.
So my last name, Sabado, and that's basically Saturday in Spanish, Sabado.
Sabado, Saturday.
Saturday in Spanish.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's how people remember it.
All right. Now I know. Now I know.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you so
Thank
much
you,
for
Burnie.
stopping
No,
by,
this
buddy,
has
and
been a
talking
great-
to us. I know we
great
kind of
time.
caught you in a little time
No.
crunch here and stuff. I really appreciate you making the time.
Thank you.
And yeah, you'll be back, huh?
Yes, sir.
All right. Sounds good. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot. This has been Burnie's Applebox, brought to you by Cinemaker and Hybrid Studios. All right. Thanks a lot. See you next Friday. Cut. That's a wrap.